is not Friday. Today is Wednesday, all day, my dudes. Okay, so the problem says, given the point 3,5, use digits 1 through 9 at most one time to find a point that minimizes the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points. The slope cannot be undefined. So let's get rid of this and let's talk about it. Talk about it. Great album. Also, mathematical. Peter, stop whining. I'm tired of your attitude. Uh-oh. Someone buy me nice things. Did you notice? It did not change. Now we have to do this. Bo, you did not read the problem.
No, not at all. I was in the back.
Yes,
I
you
got
were.
back and
I got
fixed
one
it.
over the phone.
So 3,5 is the first point, right? All right. Trying to minimize that slope. Remember, slope formula is this. M is going to equal the change in y and the change in x. Remember, change in y, or the distance, right? Oops, is subtraction. Yikes. We are having trouble today, guys. So we're going to take our y values and subtract them. And we're going to take our x values and subtract them to figure out how much we moved up and how much we've moved over, otherwise known as the rise over the run. So give me a coordinate that we want to check out and see if we can...
-9 and 4.
-9 and 4. Are we allowed to use negative numbers?
No.
Nope, so we're breaking the rules, but that's okay. So, -9 and 4. What's the slope? Do I need to plug these in and write it all out, or can we just do this in our head? Wonderful! So, the slope for this one is going to be what? What's the rise? You want to start here or start there? Start here, great idea. So what's 4 minus 5? -1. Very good. And what's -9 minus 3? -12, so we get what Luke said. 1/12. But we cheated. We're not allowed to use negative numbers.
You say it.
Did it. Using the digits 0 through 9, I believe. 1 through 9, yeah, 1 through 9. So what have you used 4 and 6 instead? Well, our rise would be 6 minus 5, which is 1. 4 minus 3, which is 1. So overall, it's going to be 1. Can we get lower than 1?
Well, I did 3.
Yes!
8, 9.
8, 9. That sentence is missing a subject. Nine minus 5 is 4. 8 minus 3 is 5. 4/5. Smaller than 1. We have a new front runner. Well done. Well done. Yes.
7, 8.
If we do 7, 8, then the slope is going to be 8 minus 5, which is 3. 7 minus 3, which is 4 3/4. Which is bigger? 4/5 or 3/4? Well, maybe it'd be easier to think of in fractions. What's 1 divided by 5? 0.2. This is about 0.8. This is about 0.75. Right? And by about, I mean exactly. So, new winner. 3/4. Can you do better? What do you notice about this type of problem? How do we make a really small number? Can't be 0, right? Because the numbers would have to be the same. How do we make a small number? How do we make a small fraction? I had a punk song picked out for today. Would have done a lot better. Wake you guys up. Yes.
To make a small fraction, a small numerator and a large denominator.
Exactly. So we want the numerator to be small and the denominator to be gigantic. That's what we want. What's the biggest denominator we can create? 9. However, in order to make the denominator, what do we have to do? We have to subtract 3, don't we? In the numerator, we have to subtract 5. No! Sorry, everybody. Guys, this is bad. She has better technique, yes.
2, 1.
Alright, so we subtract the x values, right? That's going to give us our run. So we get 3 minus 2, which is 1. And then 5 minus 1, which is 4. So we get 4 over 1.
Well, I did the other way. I did 2 minus.
What's 2 minus 3?
-1.
What's 1 minus 5? Got him!
I flipped it.
Like this?
Oh, I did the x's first. It's hard.
It's okay. Your technique for raising your hand was good. Makes up for it. What is this? What's this? Perfect. Yeah.
5 and 6.
So that gets us a denominator of 5 minus 3, which is 2, and 6 minus 5, which is 1, right? So it gets us a half. We have a new winner. Big denominator. Is there a way to make that bigger? The denominator.
Make the 6 and 8. 9 down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make the 5 and 9.
9 minus 3 is 6. New winner. Is that the smallest? Yes.
Makes the 6 and 5.
Zero slope. Which makes sense because if you have 3, 5 and 9, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, no slope. Is that the smallest?
Probably.
You think so? It's not. 1?
No, don't.
1 minus 5 is negative 4. Was that smaller than 0? I don't know. Depends on how you look at it, right? It's going to be steeper, kind of, right? Here's 9, 1. So you tell me. The number for slope is smaller because it's negative, right? It's smaller than 0. So this is actually smaller slope. I don't know. Depends on how you interpret it, right? If negative numbers are smaller, like minimizing the slope more, if that's smaller than 0, more minimized, then that's not even the smallest or the best answer. Because if negatives count, how does that change the problem? If this is a better answer than 0, is negative 4 a better answer than that? So how does that change the problem? Why would we want to make 9 a 3? Like it's a 0 on the bottom, which is undefined, which they said we weren't allowed to do. So that's a problem. But what if we made it a, I don't know, 4? Now we're here. 4 minus 3 is 1. We get negative 4. So we went from wanting to have a really big denominator, right, to make the fraction really, really small, close to 0, to if negative numbers are better, we want to make this actually a really big number overall. That way we can make it super negative, right? Changes the problem, depending on how you look at it. Put it away.
In a closet?
No.
Or is it just
I'll tell that story sometime.
Tell it now.
Tell
No.
it tomorrow. Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. No, that would not go over well. Hey kids, it's Halloween. Let's talk about the time I was in a school shooting. And the second time. No, we're not going to do that. No, but I am 2 for 2. I'm very good in crisis scenarios. All right. Questions on this page? I hope not, right? Turn the page. What about this one? The last page, if you will. Lainey, is Bo bothering you? Okay.
No.
I'm talking to Lainey, Bo. She's a good kid. She's trying to learn. Oh no, I think I did it again. Yep, I did. Guys, this is unacceptable. Somebody, anybody. You want to know something fun? This happened to your class yesterday, and it happened to no other class after that. And now it's happening to your class again.
Wait, it's supposed to snow.
It feels like a Thursday.
Then why did they move Halloween on Friday?
Because it's
They
supposed to
moved
snow on
trick or
Thursday.
treating, not Halloween.
Got him. He's like, oh, you right. Oh, you right. Dang, Bo. Wasn't having none of that. There were nicer ways to say it.
Yeah,
Bo doesn't have time.
Yeah, you were.
I was getting my point across. Right?
Yeah, he was. Good God. All right. Questions on these 3? Yeah.
Yes. The last one.
Okay.
Third.
All right. So, first of all, the slope of the original line we should find by picking 2 points. There's a nice point, and I don't know. There's a nice one. Now, because these drawings are really hard to see, you might have accidentally chosen points that aren't nice and thought they were, and so your slope might be slightly different. So if your slope is slightly different, that's okay. I'm pretty lenient on that. I know the drawings or the diagrams aren't perfect, but it looks to me like these are 2 nice points. And so if you chose nice points as well, that are actually nice points, then we should get the same slope. So if I start high and go low, I go down 3, and then to the right, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so my slope is negative 3 over 7. Did anybody else get a similar slope? No? Okay. Maybe you chose different points, and your points weren't actually nice ones. They just looked like they were.
Didn't we do this in class and get -2 over 5?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So I probably chose this one and this one, which is down 2 over 5. So depending on which way you look, the line looks like, oh, those are nice points. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Okay? So negative 2 over 5 or negative 3/7 will work. Is that cool? I'll accept either. That means our equation is going to be y equals negative 3/7 x. Where does this line cross the y-axis? Four. Now for the line that goes through this point and is perpendicular to it. So we want our perpendicular lines equation, right? Perpendicular slope What's that going to be? In this case, what's it going to be? 7/3, right? Flip and negate, meaning change the sign. So we're going to use that, which means our equation is going to be y equals 7/3 x. And the question is, where does this actually cross the y-axis? Well, it's going to cross it at 0, isn't it? Because the point that it has to go through is on the y-axis. So plus 0. Or you could write y equals 7/3 x and just leave it at that. Either of those work. When we graph our line, we're going to go up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 3. And I'm going to call that a day. And that's that on that. Never chase after a bus. Now, maybe you didn't get -3/7 for the slope. Maybe you did this slope, like we did yesterday in class, apparently, and got -2/5, right? What would your perpendicular slope be in that case? Five halves, very good, but we didn't do it in class? Good. Okay, I didn't think we did.
I don't know how I got this thing because I didn't do it on my own.
Aliens.
I was confused.
Oh, but it still was -2/5, right?
That one was, yeah.
Okay. So the other one we did on the page before was -2/5 as well?
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
But like the one line is different.
So we'd have 5 halves, which means we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up and 2 over, which looks so similar to this one until you start doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 over. Do you see how it starts splitting away? Very similar lines. Questions? No? Wonderful. I got something for you. I got something for you. It's a surprise. Yes. Hello, Jenna. Here you go. Here you go. You just gonna have to wait. What? Excuse me? Peter, stop fraternizing with her.
I just
Corrupting
put
your
your
mind.
buttons on buttons. That's all I said.
Not what it said.
That's what I
What
said.
you
Yes.
said.
What do you think I said?
I don't know what you said, but it sounded mildly inappropriate. And now all of you two just heard it. We'll go back to the tape.
You said that you had a button unbuttoned
Where?
on your shirt.
No! Really? Which one? Oh, this one right here. So I can bust this open and do the Superman thing. You guys
All
caught
I
me.
said.
Been assaulted. Alright. a single one of you deserves the air you are breathing. Right. Scumbags. All right. What is this? All right, so we've been finding perpendicular and parallel lines using graphing pretty much, right? We went from the dot and used our slope to figure out what the line would look like and then used that to help us figure out the equation where the y-intercept is. So how are we going to do that algebraically without graphs? Well, I'm glad you asked. Yes?
Is this going to be on our quiz?
Oh, yeah. All right, so number 1. Jenna, if we want something to be parallel, what do we know about the slope? It's going to have to be what? So they give us this equation, right? And we want an equation that's parallel to that. So what do we know about the slope for the line we're going to make? It's going to be what?
Like 2/3.
Yeah, it's going to be the same, right?
Yeah.
So remember, when we want parallel, we want the slope of equation 1 to equal the slope of equation 2, right? I'm wary of touching this. What?
Why do I have a random y equals 2/3
Yeah.
x
Yeah.
minus 2 on my paper and she got it?
I have 2.
Y equals 2/3 x plus or minus 2.
Yeah.
What?
Just like random in
What?
Oh, yes, you know, I don't have
look.
Are there two different versions?
that. There must be. I don't have that one.
Oh yeah, and ours are different.
It has the same thing at the top. There's just an extra thing where you wrote m1 equals m2. It says y equals 2/3 x minus 2.
And then number 2 has
Here, let me
the
just-
equation says
all the
equals negative 1/2 x plus 3 and she doesn't have that either.
Look at it. You see?
What an abomination. If you have one of the ones with extra writing on it, throw it away. No? Of course not.
Wait, are they
I mean, or you can keep them. I don't care, right?
get it in paper?
Do what you want. Does not matter to me. Here. I'm giving you another one of those since I'm not taking time to sort them.
Oh, so I just.
I mean, I don't care. It does not matter to me.
Wait, why is this one the answers or something? Michaela, why did you?
Doesn't matter to me.
No, why did you give me this one?
Yep.
Because he gave you the one again.
I don't care if you have it or not.
Mine
Doesn't matter to me.
has the same thing.
Yeah, so they printed the answer key on the back of it, which is, I think, funny. Which I gave to you again, but you've got the right stuff, so you're good now, right?
This is the same exact paper.
So do you have the one without any of the writing on it in your hand?
Can I have yours?
Yeah, if you want one, just grab one after class. It doesn't matter to me. Actually, there's a ton in there right now. So. Like, does it matter? I don't care. Wow, what a day. This is peak performance right here. You may not like it, but this is what it looks like. All right, so we want the slope to be the same. So our line is going to also be y equals 2/3 x. Now, we need a y-intercept, right? We need to know what that is. But we don't know what it is. So let's just write it as plus b. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the point that we know has to be on the line, right? So we know that it has to go through 3, 0. So I'm going to plug in the 3 for x and plug in the 0 for y because that's what they are. 3 is x and 0 is y. And what we're going to do is after we plug that all in, we're going to only have one variable, which is b. So we can solve for the y-intercept, right? So after we plug that in, we have 0 for y. And we've got 3 for x. Whenever you plug it in, wrap it in parentheses, right? Prevents little mistakes that I have to fix later. Now we're here. Now, riddle me this, children. What is 2/3 times 3? 2. 6/3, which is 2, right? So 2 ways to do it, right? You can either do times the top and then divide by the bottom, or you can divide by the bottom and then times by the top. I'll do both ways. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Or you can do 3 divided by 3, which is 1, times by the top. Now it's 2. When we move 2 over, we get negative 2 equals b, which means our y-intercept is at negative 2, which means our equation is actually going to be, 2/3 x minus 2. Is this going to be our quiz tomorrow? Oh, you better hope it is.
Can I have any erasers?
Yeah. You want this on your quiz tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah.
Watch out, Peter. What do you think about that, huh? Eh? Meh?
I have a question.
What?
I understand up until 0 equals 2 plus b, and then I don't know what you do.
I don't understand it.
That was the
Yeah.
that was a great way of asking a question, Michaela. So Michaela was good up to here and then got lost, and that helps a lot. Okay? But I'm going to start from the beginning because it seems like other people are confused, okay? So, first off, I need an equation that's parallel to this guy, right? So that means they're going to have the same slope, but I don't know what the y-intercept's going to be, right? Before, what we did is we took the point that they gave us, and we went and we did our slope, in this case up 2 over 3, until we got to the y-axis, and then we're like, oh, look where it crosses. That's where it crosses, right? And then we wrote that down. Well, we're not doing that graphically, so what we're doing is we're going to plug that point in, the point that it has to go through, right? 3 and 0. 3 goes for the x, 0 goes for the y, because that's how coordinates are, right? And we're going to solve for b. Solve for our y-intercept. We're doing it algebraically. So now we're here. Are we feeling okay? Okay. So now we have 2/3 times 3, which is the number 2. Trust me on that if you don't believe me, okay? And then I subtract the 2 to get negative 2 equals b. So our y-intercept, if this does go through 3, 0, has to be negative 2.
Okay. Good.
Remember, equations are saying that, look, here are all the points where 2/3 of x minus 2 gives you y. That's what that line represents, right? And so we know that the line has to go through 3, 0, meaning that 3 and 0 should be a solution. Meaning that if I plug in 3 for x, I should get 0 for y, right? That's what that means. So what number does this have to be that when I plug in 3 for x, I get 0 for y? Well, if I plug in 3 for x, I get 2, right? So this needs to be minus 2 in order for me to get 0. That's the logic. Okay? But again, how to do it? Plugging those in, solving for b. Jenna, how you feel?
You know, I feel better than you went over it.
Okay.
I get it better.
I'll take better every time. Let's do number 2. We need it to be parallel, which means the slopes have to be equal, right? That means our equation is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x, but we don't know what the y-intercept is, right? But we do know that it has to go through 4, 1, which means when we plug in 4 for x, we should get 1 for y, right? So what does b have to be so that when we plug in 4 for x, that we get 1 for y? Well, we can solve that algebraically. When we do this, remember, multiplication is of, right? Of is the word we use. So when we say 1/2 times 4, what we're really saying is 1/2 of 4. What's half of 4? 2. And then negate it, right? So it's negative 2. And then when we add 2 to get b on its own, we realize that b is going to equal what? 3. Which means our equation is going to be y equals a negative 1/2 x plus 3. I like them apples. Nice. I like how your pen pretty much matches your shirt. By pen, I mean pencil. Are you a purple kind of gal?
I don't really know.
Wow. She doesn't even know who she is. I feel that.
Wait, how did you get the last part though? After 3.
So check it out. We know our equation, since it has to be parallel to this guy, has to look like this. The question is, what's the b value, right? Well, we found b, so now we know. Great question. So do you see after we find b, we go back and plug it into our equation that we made? Is everybody cool with that? Turn the page. You'll notice on page 2, we are no longer talking about parallel, we're talking about perp, which stands for perpendicular, not perpetrator. Now, when the slopes are perpendicular to one another, that means we have the original slope, right?
Keep it down.
Yes! Yes, I can. You're welcome. And then we're going to flip and negate, right? That's my symbol. To get the other slope, right? Another way that you could write that would be to say that, look, we're going to take 1, and we're going to flip it and negate it, right? Is it always going to be over 1? No. Sometimes it's not, right? It's going to be like 2/3 and it's going to flip to 3/2, right? But in general, that's what's going on here. Okay? That's the rule for perpendicular, flip, and negate. We know this. So if our original equation has y equals 1/3 x plus 1, a slope of 1/3, what's our perpendicular slope going to be?
Y equals 1/3 x plus b. No.
Nope. What's our perpendicular slope going to be? Yeah.
-3.
-3. Michaela, you're a little ahead of the game there. Okay? So it's going to be -3 because we flip it and negate it. Right? That's going to be our slope. Okay? I'm breaking it down to a lot of steps here. So that means our equation is going to be y equals -3x plus b. Kind of what Michaela was saying. Kind of. Right? And the question is, what's b going to be? Well, it depends, right? Right now, I have an equation that represents all of the lines that are perpendicular to this guy. And there's lots of them, right? If I were to draw a line, how many lines are perpendicular to this guy? Well, here's one. Here's another. Here's another. Those are all perpendicular, right? There's only one line that goes through this point and is perpendicular, though. So this represents all the possible lines. Any b value. We need to find that specific one. So we're going to plug in 5 and -1. And when we do that, we get -1 for y, 5 for x, and we're going to solve for b, which gives us -1 equals -15 plus b. And we add 15, we're going to get 14 equals b, which means our equation is y equals -3x plus 14. That's the equation that is perpendicular to the first one and goes through 5, -1. How do I know it goes through 5, -1? Because when you plug in 5, you get -1 for y. I don't know. Work together. Rest of the class time is yours. We've learned a lot of tools to find out how things are perpendicular or parallel. We've done it graphically. We've done it this way.
Can we do number 10?
Number 10? Sure, I'll do number 10, but the rest of you can work on your own. So, Courtney, what's the slope here? No, if it was 0, we'd have 0 times x, which is nothing. It's 1. 1x, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so our slope is 1, which means our perpendicular slope is going to be 1 over 1 flipped, which is still 1, and then negated, -1, right? Which means that's going to be what our equation looks like. And I think from there you can solve, right? Yep. Ah, the good therefore symbol. Oh, I was not expecting you to go high. All right. That's that on that. I didn't want to throw something too crazy at you today. Got a quiz on Friday. We'll review tomorrow. That's the deal. Later. Go away, you miscreants. Goodbye, Jenna. Goodbye, Lainey. Goodbye, Jerica. Go away, everyone. See ya.
Apparently 2.
What?
Once it started switching
What grade is she in?
8.
Yeah.
Morning, Mr.
Morning, Ann.
Yes, Uncle? Please, how are you today? Good to see you, good to see you.
Oh, just fine. How are you?
Two.